All right, crew, we are going to talk about everybody's favorite thing in the world, student loans. I want to bring this up because I hope that you're staying abreast of this. Maybe if you're still in school, you're just not there as far as it being in your purview, but it's going to be there pretty soon. And I would say if you're in the last year of school, you better really know what you're going to be doing when you get out of school with your loans in terms of how you're going to attack them, how you're going to pay them. So I'll tell you our background, and then I'm going to go through some actual numbers. So we are a household times two. So if Sloan and I think I came out with like 230 some thousand, 32, and Sloan came out with like 228. So it's like $500,000 in student loan debt. Scary as shit. So we got out, we opened a business, we didn't have to start paying on them until I think a year into practice or close to it. And we, right from the get-go, signed up for an income-based repayment plan because we were small business owners. So on an IDR, income-driven or income-based plan, for ours specifically, it was you pay a max 15% of your monthly income towards your student loan. So if my student loan payment would be $3,000 a month, I'll pay, max 15% of that up to a certain point. Now, this is the whole equation. Being a small business owner, you're claiming a loss for the first few years. If you're an associate, that may not be the case. If you get out of school making $60,000, $80,000, you're not claiming a loss. So your income is going to dictate that maybe you're, paying $400 a month or something like that. Sloan and I each had to pay like $170 a month, which at the time we knew, hey, interest is accruing on these that is overriding the payments that we're putting in. And you'd be like, man, that is such a stupid thing to do. So we were getting a little scared. We're like, we're not even, not only not moving the needle on these things, they're actually accumulating interest, and the total principal amount is growing. Well, 2 years into practice, when we actually stopped claiming loss, started making money, I went through a couple different financial planners or financial advisors, and working with one that I think it was our second financial advisor, we basically said, well, why? Because they wanted us to start really getting after our student loans. And they're like, you guys need to really start paying these down. And I was like, yeah, but if you have this income-based repayment plan, and at the end of 25 years, if you made all your payments on time, which should be easy, and you set up for auto pay and all those things, that the rest of it is forgiven is income. So you're still taxed on it as income in a lump sum. So let's say for us, and this is going to be rough figures, but this is how we figured this up, that if Sloan and I started off with close to $500K, right, and we were paying, let's say 170, well, no, I guess total, we were paying, $300 a month. So we're, barely chipping away at this thing as it's growing. So we have a 500K total. So over the course of 25 years, let's say we get up to a max of like 1,000 a month, and we're going to be someplace, in between. Like, we're not hitting 1,000 a month until like we're making a lot of money. And this is where it breaks, because if you make $250,000 a year, you're going to be paying the max amount on your loans in an income-based repayment plan. So it basically goes away. And if you do hit that in like 2 to 3 years of practice, you need to just start crushing your loans, because you're just going to be paying the max, and then it's going to not be in your advantage. But let's say I paid 1,000 a month, right, for 25 years, that would be, and I'm not, right? We didn't pay for the past 2.5 years because of COVID. We were paying, the minimal amount, like $400 total between the two of us. If I paid 1,000 a month for 25 years, that would be 300K. So I got out of school with this much, I would pay that much, and then I would have, the remainder. I could have another $300,000, maybe more, 400, as taxable income. All right, so if I come up here, so I've got 400K. Well, let's say that the rate on that at 400,000 for income, which it's not going to be, but let's say it's 20%. So that's 80,000. Okay. So now I just spent and this is not what's going to happen. I'm telling you what's going to happen here in a second, but this would be if you spent a fairly high amount on an income-based repayment plan for 25 years and then had the taxable income forgiven at the end. So I'd spend total what? $380K. So I don't know about you, but in my opinion, spending $380,000 versus a total of, $500,000 plus interest over however long it's going to take you to pay them is going to be far more than that, just let alone the principal. Well, here's the cool thing. So I'm just going to go through and we're going to erase all this stuff. So right now, I should go back and look at how much we've spent. Let's say I've spent $350 so we've been in practice almost 9 years and we've had the last 2 off. So 350 times 12, and we'll multiply that by 7. So far, let's say I've spent this much towards my student loans. Now the income-based repayment plan is going to keep going up as we make more and more money. I don't think we're going to hit that like $350,000 mark a year until maybe a couple more years or so. So let's just say that over the next, so I've been in it now, and now the new report that came out from the Board of Education or the Department of Education says that they may be shortening the timelines on these income-based repayment plans. So instead of 25 years, they're thinking of shrinking everything down to 20. This is for all plans, and maybe even shorter than that. And here's the big kicker. Now they're saying that they're not going to tax the forgiven amount at the end, which is huge because we have, which I'm going to explain in a second, we have an investment account that we're putting more money into to offset what we pay at the end. So let's say I've paid $29,400 over 9 years because we've been accruing. So let's say I have 16 years left and I'm going to spend even $500 a month, 500 times 12 times 16. Oh gosh, sorry, 500 times 12, 6,000 times 16. So that's $96K. So then we're looking at what? 125 grand. So I don't know about you, but if I could get out of school all in for less than school actually costs, which we could talk about how much school should cost for $125,000, I think this is the smartest thing to do instead of tackling your loans and paying them off directly, unless you're in a completely unique scenario where you come out of school making starting about $150,000. In particular, if you're going to own a business, you better be listening to what we're talking about, because our financial advisors, once we looked at the numbers on this, and I'm going to show you the other side of the equation, we're not only going to say this is a fantastic idea, we're going to go show this to all our new medical school graduates, our dentists, and that's what they're doing. And I know other people within a couple of the groups have been talked to about this, but let's say that the forgiven amount at the end was still going to be seen as taxable income. So what we started to do, we said, well, we're just going to pay the minimum payments based on the income-based repayment plan amount. And we're going to assume that we would be paying normally like $1,000 a month. So what do? Well, currently I put $650 per month into basically a robo fund with Fidelity. I have another $100 a month that is going into crypto. So I have $750 a month that's going into long-term investments. And you could be like, yeah, the crypto's kind of a little Ethereum, a little Bitcoin, just offsetting. So I have $750 a month, and I'm not going to do the whole, timetable of interest, but let's just say $750 a month with interest bearing in a taxable account over 25-ish years. Let's say 20, because we started off probably at 500 a month. And we're going to keep upping the 650. We'll go to 750, all the way up to, we're putting however much a month in there. This investment account was targeted at being close to, when you look at normative averages of the market, which is about 7% return. So 7% return annually is the market average. Most robo investors are going to, we've averaged around 12% a year. So at 12% a year, we're calculated to have somewhere around between minimum 800 to 900K in this one investment account. Now, when we were going to have to pay maybe $200,000 in taxes, which are like, holy shit, say, maybe not that much. Let's say it was $120,000 in taxable income or taxes for the income that was being forgiven at the end, right? It's realized as income. So we were going to subtract 120,000 off that, which is basically a huge retirement account for us. And you're like, that's not much for retirement. Well, yeah, then we're also looking to buy assets like commercial buildings, maybe some rental properties, other things in the work. And again, this is from a stagnated, like, hey, we're only doing 1,000 a month. Like, stuff grows, other things will come up. Like, we have an idea, and then we have an idea of opening other offices. So it's not just like I'm banking on $900,000 to retire on. But this investment account was my offset for this income-based repayment plan that you pay the minimum payments, you put a much larger chunk, right? Whatever you can afford into an investment account, because you don't want to, this is the dumbest thing in the world, is to pay off all your debt and then start investing. Because what do we know is the biggest deal in the world for basically compounding interest? It's time. So you need to start investing as early as possible, because even as stupid as it sounds, $20 a month is far better than starting 10 years from now at $500 a month. So you have to start investing early. So we just, this was pay yourself first that we had, right off the get-go, $500 a month going to this investment account, even when stuff was tight. But when you subtract that 120, now we had still, let's say 700, K of cash in an investment account after we've paid for our student loans versus, hey, we're going to wipe out 600, like with interest, probably $700,000 of debt. Like, we wouldn't have that money. Plus we wouldn't have been investing. So this is an absolute no-brainer to me. And why I did this video was, this is completely exciting to me, is with all of this stuff, the new things coming out about cancel student loan debt and how they're going about it, what we also have to realize is what's happening in the background. So if we think about the mortgage crisis of 2008, we see that basically, obviously people were getting mortgages that probably shouldn't have been, but then this bad lending creates this kind of like hot potato kind of scenario where people are going to start selling off the mortgages piece by piece. So each piece that gets sold, that means that person's getting a little bit, but the next person, that they're not getting the full valuation of that mortgage until finally it just blows up. It's kind of what you're seeing happening with student loans. Like, we've had 6 different loan servicers since we graduated in 2013, which is less than 10 years ago. So every time a new servicer shows up, a little chunk of that loan is never going to be realized by the next servicer. Well, if you do that so many times, the investment itself, right, that portfolio that they're buying becomes less and less valuable than if you tell them like, oh, well, we have these plans where people are going to only do minimum payments for 20 years and then we just knock it out. What are people going to say? Well, we want bailed out like the banks do. And I honestly think this thing's going to be a bubble burst here pretty soon. And maybe it's not. I wouldn't hedge my bets for it. Like, you got to plan for the future as it's going to, draw out, just like the government drew up these plans. But this is the scary thing with the stuff that people have been in these income-based repayment plans. Their loans don't forgive them because their company was not tracking it, which sounds crazy. But you hear stories all the time like, oh, you missed one payment and you can go back. And so you have to keep really good records on this stuff. But again, the goal would be what? IBR, straight out of school. This would be my plan for anybody. Minimum payments, invest ASAP, and then hedge your bets. What's that mean? That be investing in yourself rather than paying off your student loans. The one thing that I will say that we've run into, so here's a little slice of truth for you. We bought a home 2 years ago, and it was really a struggle because of the amount of student loans. So according to Freddie Mac and Sallie Mae, you're supposed to take 0.5% of your total student loans, and that's what's realized is your payment, which doesn't seem like a lot until you have $500-some thousand in loans. And you're like, that's a $3,000 a month payment. And what they don't appreciate or take into account is that you're actually not paying that you have this federally derived payment plan, and you can show them this is my payment. Well, they don't care. they have their equation that is legally driven after the 2008 recession or mortgage crisis, to where their bad lending practices brought up these new legal caps that they had to say, like, there's certain people that we're not going to let do this based on XYZ. So when we went to look just a little while ago for a new house, they're like, yeah, you're still in the same scenario, even though we make far more money. We only have one auto loan that is through the business, and that's to keep it as a current, like on the liability sheet. So we have zero debt outside of the student loan debt, and yet it's still hard for us to get a mortgage because we have these huge student loans weighing over our head. That's the one thing that sucks. What I'm also hoping, and again, this is just a hope, happens as more clarity comes to these income-based repayment plans, is that they actually come out with federal guidelines for, you actually have to honor the IBR payment when you go to get things like whether it's a home or a commercial loan, because that would be one things we would like to do in the near 5-year future, is buy a building, and I bet we'd run into the same thing. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on what to do with your student loans. I hope that makes sense. If you just want to get out and crush them because you don't like debt, all power to you, but please run your life. I've said this about running your business. Run your life like you run a business, and run your business like you run your life financially. And I can tell you one thing, if you're willing to pay a couple $100,000 more to get rid of debt as fast as you can versus saving a couple $100,000 to use the federal guideline plans that are out there, that's how businesses fail. Is having this like Dave Ramsey all cash mindset. Like, it's just not the smartest thing to do by a long shot. So I hope that helps somebody. I hate to kind of do a video on student loans in the residency, because I like this to be more clinically oriented, but this is the truth of practice, and I hope that helps somebody out there. If you have questions on this, let me know. I guess I should give some disclaimer, like I'm, not a fiduciary, a registered financial advisor, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. I'll see you guys in a couple weeks.